afternoon. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 20th Energy and Environment Committee. I understand that Mr. Blumenfield is en route, and we're joined by Mr. Weezar, thereby establishing a quorum. Let's go ahead and begin, Mr. CLA, with item number 1.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Members, item number 1 relates to sewer service charge appeal for the property located at 22510 Needle Street in Chatsworth.
Very good. Is the appellant here? The resident, the appellant to the address 22510 Needle Street in Chatsworth, is that person here? Hearing and seeing no appellant, why don't we have the department report on this so that we can dispense with the item?
Great. Good afternoon. Lisa Mowry, Sanitation, Acting Chief Financial Officer. For our residential customers who receive sewer service from the city, the normal methodology for charging them is based on their winter water use from the previous winter, since we aren't able to directly measure their sewage volume. This works very well for most customers because the amount of irrigation they do during the winter time is much lower. However, for some of our customers who still need to irrigate in the winter, usually because they have either a very large property or a significant amount of landscaping, we do recommend that they install a second meter, a private water submeter. This is a second DWP meter. DWP reads the meter same time they do their main one, and their billing is adjusted so they only pay sewer service charge on the water that actually goes into their home, not anything that gets used for irrigation. This customer has been a customer since 1994. In August of 2012, the customer installed a private submeter, and like many customers do, found that her sewer service bill went down. At that time, the customer made the argument that rather than the city only going back to the time that she had the meter installed, she should receive a refund going all the way back to 1997 when we instituted the winter water use methodology of billing. The Los Angeles Municipal Code, which is what governs the sewer service charge, requires that customers apply for a change in their sewer service within 30 days of receiving a bill. The responsibility is on the customer to monitor their bills and let us know if they feel there's a billing adjustment needed. However, during the appeal process that the customer appealed to the Board of Public Works, the board does have the ability to go back, grant an additional adjustment for a one-year period, consistent with the claims presentation requirements both in the city charter as well as the state government code. So the customer did receive that refund, which was $416.13. However, the customer then appealed that decision to your city council, requesting that the adjustment go all the way back to 1997. So the reason why for these cases we do stick to the one-year period in large part is due to the fact that in order for us to be able to ascertain that the circumstances are the same as they are now, really if we start to go back more than 1 year, that becomes very uncertain. The customer could have changed the plumbing associated with it. There could have been, different construction on the property. They could have had more people living there. There could have been all sorts of things that have happened in that 15-year period. And so that's why we don't make a recommendation to exceed that 1 year authority that's part of the claims presentation and provide the additional refund, because we just can't be sure that what that submeter is measuring today is actually what was occurring on the site 5, 10, or 15 years ago. So the recommendation from sanitation and supported by our city attorney's office is to deny this request for further adjustment and keep it at the 1 year period.
Very good. Members, any questions?
Yes.
Mr. Weezer.
What type of notice was given to the individual here, the appellant who didn't show up to today's hearing?
We mailed a notice to the appellant. We're required to do that at least 10 days before the meeting, which was done. We also emailed the notice to the customer. We've tried this week to contact the customer by phone, but the voicemail box was full, so we did send the customer a follow-up email reminding her of the meeting today.
And do you have is that regular mail or is it what do you call those other little green slips?
Certified.
Certified?
Certified, yeah,
Certified?
we send the notices certified
Do you
mail.
have documentation to show that somebody received that letter?
No, we haven't received the certification back yet.
Okay. Any type of, in the email, any response?
No, we have not received a response to the email.
Do you feel comfortable that proper notice was given?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel comfortable that proper notice was given?
You're asking me? Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Koretz?
So what was their argument to justify more than a year?
Basically, just the feeling that because the meter, the sub-meter now is showing that a large portion of their water usage is going to irrigation, just the assertion that that's been the condition for the past 15 years, which we're unable to verify.
Well, you'd probably be inclined to think it went back at least further than a year. Would we ever, in good faith, give them more than a year, like 3 years, just as a good faith gesture, since we probably were in that condition 15 years but can't prove it?
It's safer for us to stick with the 1 year because that's consistent with the city charter as well as the state government code. That avoids any questions that could come up about whether any additional amount could possibly be considered a gift of public funds.
Very good. Barring any objection, the order will be to deny the sewer service charge appeal request for the adjustment refund beyond the 1 year period threshold consistent with the city charter. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Colleagues, unless there's an objection, I'd like to take items 3 and 4 on consent.
Give me one. I'm not finding it in my notes, but I'm pretty sure I had things I wanted to
Here's
mention
the
on 4.
committee agenda, Mr. Perez. Items 3 and 4. In the meantime, we'll have item 2 presented on, please. If we can have department staff come up.
Good afternoon. I'm Doug Walters of the Bureau of Sanitation, and I'm joined by my colleague at LADWP, Serge Haddad. I'll speak for the first portion and then defer to him for the other aspect. The One Water Plan, as you may well know, is the integration of multi-city collaboration. It's a stakeholder-driven process to look at how we manage all water, streams of water in the city, stormwater, drinking water, recycled water, wastewater. The city has been applying this concept for over 15 years through the Water Integration Integrated Resources Plan, or IRP. We've been planning for all of these aspects of water to best leverage our resources to create a multi-beneficial water projects and policies that will ensure a reliable water future for Los Angeles. Since the IRP was adopted in 2006, we've made great progress in stormwater capture, water reuse, and conservation. Yet the water IRP planning window is coming to an end. It was set for 2020, which, from a planning perspective, is just right around the corner. So we're now embarking on the One Water LA plan, which will forward look to 2040 and embrace a broader integration, as many of you and your colleagues have asked for, as well as many in the community, to further strengthen our interdepartmental and our stakeholder partnerships. We reported on the Water IRP One Water efforts to your committee back in April this year. So today we'll cover just a few more highlights as well as what has happened since April. In the stormwater capture area, we implemented several stormwater capture projects through Proposition O and the Green Streets Committee efforts. We recently completed stormwater projects for 2014, including the Glen Oaks Sunland Stormwater Capture Project, which was completed in June of this year, which installed infiltration dry wells and vegetated swells to help alleviate flooding at the subject intersection during storm events. Also, the Rosecrans Recreational Center Sports and Stormwater Enhancement Project, completed in February, captures surface runoff from the park and adjacent streets, as well as filters through vegetated bioswales and retention basins. Other best management practices include permeable pavement in the parking lot and pathways, a smart irrigation system, and catch basin screens for collecting the trash. LA San, in collaboration with Water and Power and other agencies, is working to develop the enhanced watershed management plans. The acronym for that is EWIMPs. Engineers love acronyms. For each of LA's 5 watersheds. The EWIMPs for each of these 5 watersheds must be developed and submitted to the LA Regional Water Quality Control Board by June of next year. Although the EWIMPs primarily focus on capturing stormwater from city areas with the highest pollution levels in stormwater in order to meet the Clean Water Act mandates, there will be a resulting multi-benefit projects that will be coordinated with the Stormwater Capture Master Plan, which is led by DWP, to provide the maximum amount of benefit for both water quality and stormwater capture where feasible. The Stormwater Capture Master Plan, as I mentioned, led by DWP, in partnership with LA SAN and other local government and non-government agencies, will provide a framework for evaluating future stormwater capture projects and policies to augment local water supply. This plan will also recommend a handful of future projects and programs that will be beneficial additions to the city's current stormwater capture project portfolio. And now I'm going to defer to Serge to talk about both the water recycling program and the water conservation programs.
Thank you, Doug. My name is Serge Haddad. I'm with the Water Recycling Policy Group at the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. And I'm here to talk a little bit about recycled water and touch upon conservation efforts. The city is committed to increasing recycled water in Los Angeles to offset potable demand in LA. And our way to get there involves 2 manners. Purple pipe networks, and increasing that to our non-drinking customers, and the construction of our groundwater replenishment project. LADP serves recycled water to customers for irrigation and industrial uses when it's non-potable reuse, and the GWR project will replenish our supplies in the San Fernando Valley Basin. Building on the success of the water IRP, stakeholders effort that we've done in the past, we started a 5-year outreach process in which we invested significant time and resources to get the message out to the public. We continue to work with the Recycled Water Advisory Group, or RWAG, another acronym that engineers like to use, to receive feedback and input to help guide the implementation of the recycled water projects and program. Since our last visit here with the E&E Committee in April, we held the 12th RWAG workshop and organized a tour at the Orange County Water District groundwater replenishment system. In addition, city staff has briefed several stakeholders and presented to neighborhood councils and neighborhood council coalitions. In all, we've actually engaged the public at over 80 events. We've reached to over 3,000 students, teachers, and parents in our K-12 schools throughout LA. And we will continue to do this outreach during the implementation of the project. Right now, the groundwater replenishment project is in the environmental review phase. With regard to conservation, in response to the governor's statewide drought declaration in January 2014, DWP launched new water conservation programs and expanded on existing programs to increase water efficiency throughout the city. DWP has prepared a report, approximately 19 pages in length, in response to recent council motions 14-0078 and 14-0078S1 that provide details on all the water conservation programs and our strategies with responding to the statewide drought, and the recent State Water Regional Quality Control Board emergency regulations. We are planning to provide an oral presentation with these slides at an upcoming E&E committee meeting. So thank you very much.
Very good. Understanding that you're transitioning from the IRP to sort of a one water philosophy, you had goals and strategies for 2020 as the time frame that you were trying to act by. How many of those objectives have been made, and what's sort of left to be done as you move towards the new One Water 2040 sort of deadline? How much progress are we making here?
We're making quite a lot of progress. I mean, we generally met all of our objectives. I think the biggest change between the IRP and 2040 was that substantial drought and climate change were really not in the conversation back then when we started the process in 1999. So that's going to be a significant current of thought, and how does that impact our facilities, our infrastructure, and the policies and programs that attach to that. The good news is, certainly for ratepayers and all of us, was that most of those projects that were developed and permitted were not required. In other words, the flows that we were anticipating due to growth just did not materialize, because right after 2006 we had a lot of economic turmoil throughout the region, and people started to conserve quite a bit. So now we are more focused at looking at the downward trend. Will there be enough water to supply all of the treatment plants, the recycling projects, the LA River revitalization efforts? So how do we best leverage our resources to make sure that all those projects can be successful, interlaid with regulations that do come down the pike that we do monitor?
You know, on that point, obviously, recycling efficiencies and that sort of thing, we're making a lot of ground, and you've got these GO projects that I'd like you to talk about a little bit, sort of what triggers them and what's being successful. But before you get to those, understanding that there was sort of a downturn in there was a terrible downturn in the economy, what is the planning tools that you all are using for the growth of the city in terms of, people? And obviously we're going to factor in efficiencies and all these GO projects and other sort of strategies, but what is sort of the anticipated growth for the city of Los Angeles, and how do you sort of account for that?
We do work with the SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments, who does track that. Typically, we haven't seen substantial figures yet that show significant growth. I think for the near-term future, much of that growth would be offset by a lot of the water recycling efficiencies that we're seeing out there. There's just recently the introduction of showers that can actually filter water so that the standard 30-gallon shower would then turn into a 3-gallon shower, for example. So for households that might want to invest in those types of solutions, we can see more indoor recycling. A lot of our focus, quite frankly, is on outdoor recycling. DWP has led the, Turn Back the Grass, or I forget the exact title, but Cash in Your Lawn, Flowers to Showers. There's variations of it. $3 per square foot to get people to reduce the amount of potable reuse. Of course, Purple Pipe, getting more folks on the recycled water lines where it is available from the treatment plants that produce it, has been an effective strategy. So we're constantly monitoring the triggers, looking at regulations, looking at the growth industries to see where water is, but many of these industries are focused on sustainable practices with the help with our stormwater folks, at the public counters, working with BOE to come up with, lead-oriented strategies. The LID ordinance was instrumental that the council passed 3 years ago. Permeable pavement, all of those types of things, rain barrels, et cetera, both from a micro level and a larger level as strategies to how can we all use less water. Los Angeles is very, very good. We're one of the lowest of the largest cities, over 1 million people. I think second lowest, but we know we can do more.
Which, if any, of the GO if triggered projects will go, and what are the triggers?
The Northeast Interceptor Sewer Phase 2A, which is about a $191 million project, is in the final stages of design project. We would build that. That'll help relieve some of the sewage that enters the old one of the original sewers in Los Angeles, the NOS sewer, to help us reduce odors and spills. That is something that's in the works. All the other projects have not been triggered because we either haven't had enough recycled water users out in the community, or we're doing it through Purple Pipe. We certainly haven't seen a lot of additional solids in the system, so we haven't needed to increase the capacity of Hyperion for the digestion of solids. The good news again is that all of those projects have been cleared environmentally through the CEQA process, but we just haven't seen anywhere near the flows that we had even just 6-7 years ago prior to the economic turmoil that would necessitate us even to design those projects further. But they are in the books. We can continue to look at them. We're working with communities to talk about what other ways, what other strategies, where's the best use of water. The alternative that came out of the IRP was putting more of the water up into the San Fernando Valley at the DC Tillman plant with the hopes that we could start the groundwater replenishment project, which was conceived 19, 20 years ago, with the hopes that we can see that through and replenish our groundwater aquifers.
And with respect to the sort of those projects, what's sort of the order of events that need to take place, and the strategies for the replenishment of their groundwater basin. Mr. Blumenfield and I are often sort of speaking to that with one another and in committee here. What needs to happen for us to get started on all of that? Or maybe we've already been started on elements of it, but in terms of sort of putting shovels in the ground, what needs to happen?
Well, we're in the permitting phase right now. We're about halfway through. We hope to finish that early next year by coming up with our draft environmental impact report. We're looking at the various site locations at the Donald C. Tillman plant that would facilitate housing the advanced water purification process, which is microfiltration, reverse osmosis, and advanced oxidation to get the water to the standard that it needs to be cleaned to so that it could be sent over through the existing 54-inch line that was built back then, taken over to DWP's Hansen spreading grounds and the adjacent Pacoima spreading grounds, so that once the facility does start, once it's permitted and funded, when we're thinking probably early 2020s, 2022, in that range. Correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong.
2022 is the operational date that we're expecting at this current phase, but we still have a lot to work out during the environmental process. We're working with our partners at sanitation to get over those hurdles, but also the outreach is very important for us. We don't want the backlash from the community to come back. We want them to be well informed, to understand the project scope, so they understand the benefit for the city as a whole.
So the advanced treatment is sort of the first stage. Well, I shouldn't say the first stage. You've been planning it, but it's sort of what's happening now. What about sort of the remediation of the basin itself? So you've got the spreading grounds, and you're going to have a recharge opportunity there, but there still needs to be significant remediation out there. Where are we on sort of that project area?
So the remediation project of the San Fernando Valley is ongoing, and it's a separate project, independent of the groundwater replenishment project. Yes, they share the same basin, but in order for us to have a healthy basin, we have to treat the contaminants in the basin first, as well as replenish it with additional water sources, such as recycled water and stormwater. So they're moving forward.
So, but understanding that it's a separate project, where are we sort of in the EIR phase of that? We're already doing some groundwater remediation. If we're lucky and the water bond passes in November, those
Right.
monies would go help what part of this project?
So if we are lucky and we have more additional funding, it will help the project as a whole. There are some pilot treatment projects going on in the Tahunga spreading grounds, the granular activated carbon tanks that are cleaning up 2 wells. They're supposed to be temporary, but they're probably going to stay there for a long time, if not permanently, because they're doing such a tremendous job. We are in the conceptual phase of the GWR, San Fernando Basin Remediation Project, I should say. We are working, we have dedicated staff at the Department of Water and Power looking at that, and we can come back and report on the status of that at a later time. I'm on the recycled water team, but we work closely with them.
I'd like that very much, because all of those recharge areas are in Council District 7,
Absolutely.
in addition to being, a critical asset to the entire city. Colleagues, any questions? Mr. Kretz?
Yeah, a few. First of all, obviously, our whole One Water approach depends on cooperation, particularly between departments. And these are strong departments that have previously been pretty siloed and not that cooperative on these kinds of projects. How do we get past that and make this actually work?
Basically by explaining that we're all short on resources and funding, and that we need to leverage those resources to come up and understand our common water objectives. Just case in point, we met with the LA River office today to talk about how can we join forces and bring together the same communities that are concerned. Either, some of them are concerned on an environmental perspective, others are more focused on the business aspects of what's happening, what's going on with the revitalization effort. So how do we bring in those folks representing diverse viewpoints and share in this view? We may not always agree on every single point, but at least have the dialogue up front, be open and transparent with them, look at the benefit and the cost of all the projects and that will ultimately get proposed, so that everyone has a say in doing that. So that's what's bringing them to the table, as opposed to just sort of being a token at occasional meetings. So our Assistant Director, Del Hashkalia, was present at the meeting today, and we expect additional counterparts from those other key departments like planning, general services, building and safety, street services, LADOT, and Empower LA to also be at the table. We have a meeting scheduled with them for the next couple of months, and then we also are expecting that the mayor's office, the sustainability guru over there, is going to lead the meeting so that all the folks come together on a routine frequency to talk about the progress. That's what worked in the IRP under previous administrations, and we expect that will continue to work for us from here on out.
Very good. And the chair mentioned the water bond in some of our projects. I hope we're thinking about the fact that we need to really be ready to go, because there'll be a certain amount of competition for these things. We know we have more potential projects than the dollars probably in every particular area. So, midnight on the day this water bond passes, we should have shovel-ready projects ready to present. So I think that'll make a huge difference in terms of us getting the kind of funding we need. And particularly, obviously, on the San Fernando Valley aquifer, and the easiest and most logical place for us to put our efforts, which I know we're going to do, is in the northernmost part of that, which is already a little cleaner and makes a lot of sense because the water flows downwards. So cleaning that area and maintaining it will be the easiest and most logical. The governor recently signed into law 2403, which changes our tax obligations in terms of, as I understand it, whether we have to put something before the voters or we're able to pass a tax without doing that, in terms of stormwater and rainwater, and acknowledging that as part of our water supply. How is that going to work, and have we thought about how we can take advantage of that?
Good afternoon, Shram Kargani, LA Sanitation. Thank you, Councilmember. As you mentioned, AB 2403 was signed by the governor 2-3 weeks ago. It provides a great opportunity for City of Los Angeles. As you know, the AB 2403 expanded the definition of water, that any source of water, including stormwater, that provides water augmentation can be paid through that fee that comes from AB 2403. What we have done thus far, we are working with City Attorney's Office to get the input from them as far as the legal ramification, that should the fee be in LA Sanitation or in Water and Power. We believe it should be in sanitation based on the reading of the Assembly bill. You are well aware of that the stormwater program has so much obligation. You have heard the number of billions of dollars. So this is I would say, a good opportunity for us to take on. Currently, we are putting a capital improvement program together for 5 to 10 years regarding projects that actually recharge groundwater or direct water use, that offset fresh water use. So these are exactly the type of projects that AB 2403 had contemplated. So we have that. We are working with also Water and Power and other sister agencies to make sure that that CIP includes everyone's project. And the hope is that, to briefing of CLA, CAO, Mayor's Office, and Council offices, we have the opportunity to move forward with this source of funding. We have been waiting for such a thing for almost 21 years. I have been following it for 21 years. And this is a good opportunity, and I think we should take advantage of that.
And I don't know whether the number is still considered to be around $8 billion in terms of our stormwater obligations. How helpful will this be in terms of allowing us to meet those obligations?
I believe that the AB 2403 does provide us to bring some $67 million per year. And as you know, we could always go what we call debt financing. For every $3 we could borrow about $10 to $15. So I would say having as little as $4 per month, a brand new fee as little as $4 per month for the average property, we should bring enough money to be able to meet the obligation that you mentioned, $8 billion. This is, of course, estimated $8 billion, but based on the function of the inflation and future and cost of construction, that dollars could be going a little bit higher. But I believe the AB 2403 at $4 per month should provide us enough money to be able to meet the city's obligation, more so to provide a more secure water supply that all of you folks are talking about every meeting that I attend to.
Exactly. Well, I always try to mention it because I don't want the $8 billion to slip our minds. That's the largest obligation of any kind that I've heard the city has. So I want to be sure we don't just let time go by and not meet that obligation in a timely manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Very good, colleagues. Hearing and seeing no additional questions, what we will do is we will hold this item in committee for 30 days and instruct requests that the Bureau of Sanitation, Department of Water and Power, the Chief Administrative Officer's Office, and the Chief Legislative Analyst and other relevant departments to review the proposed GO policy directions and report back with the potential implementation strategy. Very good. With any objections, 3 or 4 will be on consent. Without any objection, very good. We'll go to item 5.
Certainly. Item number 5. Motion, Blumenfield, Fuentes, relative to requests in the Department, Water and Power, to report on the city's participation in the Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE program and related matters.
Very good. Mr. Blumenfield, would you like to take the chair here? Here are speaker cards on number 5, and however you would like to handle this item. Great.
Well, first I'll just sort of set it up, and what this is related to is getting us moving on the PACE and the HERO program, something I've been involved with for a long time. I had a bill back in 2010 that dealt, and when I was in the legislature, AB 474, that specifically extended the use of the PACE program for energy conservation and expanded it to water conservation so that you could do financing. Local governments could do financing, and it seemed like a great idea. Everybody was very excited about it at the time, and we were go, and then there was the lawsuit with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and the PACE program basically hit a brick wall, and almost across the state, it all stopped. Recently, with the advent of the HERO program and sort of calling the bluff on the PACE program, the issues that Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac have had, there's been a resurgence of this. And the county is starting to use the PACE program for energy and water conservation. I'm very excited about the possibilities of this, as I was when the first authored the bill to make it happen. And the purpose of this item is to see where we're at and how we move forward on that, because now at the local level we have a great opportunity to make this happen. And that's when you're talking about water conservation, you're talking about cisterns or turf or anything else, and instead of having the rebate program, which is great, you actually have another tool in the tool chest, which for many people will be easier and won't cost them anything up front. So happy to start with well, we have our folks up here, so we can do public comment afterwards and have the reports from our.
Great. I'm David Jaco, Director of Efficiency Solutions from the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Joining me from LADWP is Gretchen Hardison, who oversees our grants, MOUs, and partnerships. And then we also have Ted Bardicke of the Mayor's Sustainability Office. This is definitely a joint effort. So where we are on PACE, you gave a very good synopsis of PACE, so that took about half of what I was going to say. Thank you. That's quite all right. I'll jump right in. The utilities, DWP, the gas company, privately owned utilities have been and still are very excited about PACE, and we want to work very closely with PACE. We'll draw a distinction. There's a difference between PACE and HERO. HERO is a retrofit program that leverages residential PACE. There are multiple residential retrofit programs that can leverage PACE. It doesn't have to be HERO per se, but we're certainly looking at that one. Where we are with PACE is it depends on whether you look at commercial or residential. And there's residential PACE, there's commercial PACE. LA County passed back in 2011 through the Board of Supervisors the ability to offer both, the LA County Clean Energy Program, LACEP, and the residential portion of that got shot down, got put on ice due to the FHFA federal ruling on residential PACE. The commercial PACE piece has moved forward, and we've completed some projects in LA. There's been other commercial projects completed around Southern California. That's getting ahead of steam. Residential hasn't moved yet, but it's about to. Just last week on August 12th, the supervisors authorized LA County to move forward with PACE and with developing a HERO type or similar residential offering. So we're very excited by PACE, but we also see we have a natural partnership role with PACE. PACE, first of all, is administered by the local government because it's putting an assessment on the property tax. So the local government, in this case LA County, is central to the offering of PACE. The utility can be and should be, and I'm going to draw this distinction here on HERO, it can be and should be a partner, a key partner to the PACE program, whether it's commercial or residential, that is offered by the county. We have incentive programs. You mentioned rebates, incentives. Here's a different way or another way. We see them as additive. Here's a way. Here's another source of funding for our customers to complete projects. That doesn't mean we don't want to still give our rebates. We want our incentive and rebate programs to be coordinated with the county or whoever's offering the PACE program, their program, so that, one, our incentives buy down the customer's project costs so they don't have to borrow as much, and two, by coming through our programs, getting our incentives, they also get the benefit of our quality control, which helps make sure the customer is actually going to get the energy and water savings they're anticipating. And that's key. And that takes us to let me briefly discuss with HERO one of the concerns. It's certainly not a deal breaker. Everything's being looked at and investigated. But the way the HERO program is currently run by the Western Riverside Council of Governments, it is not synced up with Southern California Edison. Southern California Edison has a comprehensive energy efficiency retrofit program for residential. It's the Energy Upgrade California program. We have the same program. We partnered with SoCalGas 2 years ago to bring that statewide investor-owned utility program into the city of Los Angeles, and we're seeing participation in that double year over year. So we think it's a great program. We think it's a great vehicle. We think it would be great for PACE financing to supplement, bridge the gap between the project cost and the rebate, allow the customer to finance the balance of the project, no money down. Edison's program does not talk to HERO, or I should say HERO does not talk to Edison. So what's happening there in Riverside County is those HERO projects are not getting the Edison rebate. They're not getting the Edison QC, quality control. So they are getting financed 100%, but that financed amount that the customer is then seeing put on their property tax bill is more than it would be if they were connected to Edison. And us at DWP, we do not want to see that type of separate, completely disconnected pathway go forward.
We have all of our folks add their part before we ask questions.
Fred Pickle, Office of Public Accountability, Ratepayer Advocate. In a recent presentation by the Office of the Ratepayer Advocate to the DWP Board, we specifically gave a recommendation to explore financing alternatives for residential and small commercial solar, local solar. And we feel programs, especially like PACE, create an opportunity for financing that is now very difficult to help these ratepayers directly. And it can help these ratepayers directly without cross-subsidy from other ratepayers. So we think this is an important addition to help along local solar.
Hi, I'm Ted Bardicke. I'm Deputy Director of the Mayor's Sustainability Office and coordinate energy efficiency policy within that office. And it's exciting for Council to be taking this up because we've been working with the county on trying to reestablish a countywide residential PACE program, since my second week starting in the office. And as we've been working also at the state level in the helping the state establish a reserve fund for potential losses that has been part of calling the FHFA's bluff, and are excited to do that. I kind of think, given the work we've been doing with the county and our education around the HERO program, I kind of see that there's three big options that council could take, and we're not necessarily recommending any one, two, or three. There's some combinations. But I kind of wanted to lay out what I think are the paths forward, if that's...
I anticipated my primary question,
okay.
So thank you.
To remind folks, in 2009, when PACE was starting up in the county, the city opted into the county's program. and which was launched in 2010. And that's what allows currently city projects, commercial projects, to participate in the county's program. And if the county were to restart a residential program, we're part of it. We don't need to do anything administratively as council. We start residential.
Everyone agree on that? Because I hear different things about that.
So that's...
I mean, have you heard anything to the contrary? Because that's great. If we're in it and we don't need to do anything else.
That's right. Now, the county, as David mentioned, voted on the 12th to issue an RFP to choose a provider or providers of a countywide program. We have been involved with their internal services department to review that RFP and are particularly looking at sort of three things in that RFP to make sure that are covered. One is we in the mayor's office really feel that there ought to be an opportunity for multiple providers, that it's not about necessarily selecting one, and there are others around there. And the reason for multiple providers, in addition to sort of the principle of competition, is that we do think that there could be competition on quality, but also on the interest rate offered to LA customers. We've also been very focused on consumer protection and what kind of disclosures. Remember, people are taking money onto their property taxes, and it's a lien. And we want to make sure that whoever is operating in LA is really sort of best in class in terms of disclosure. And the third thing that David mentioned is the ability to sync up with DWP programs, and we think that through the county process, we have some ability to leverage and influence that, because that has been a sticking point in other jurisdictions. However, there are two other options in addition to following along and continuing the county process. The one is we're fully within our right to start our own program. I don't recommend that, frankly, because that is going to take way longer than the county, and it's a burden on the CAO and the sort of the bond issuance there. The second option is the county. The third option is to opt into the Western Riverside Council of Governments program, which is the HERO program. And that can be done relatively quickly. It requires a council resolution. I believe you'll be hearing from the HERO folks in a minute. And it is something that 45 other cities in the county have done. And depending on which of those cities you talk to, it has been either we'll do this while the county goes through its process and then we'll transition, or this is just a way to jumpstart it and we'll go.
Are they mutually exclusive, these three things?
I kind of, the first one of starting our own program would be going down quite a different path.
More about the
But
county and
the
HERO.
county and the HERO, they're not mutually exclusive. One could, if it's in your best judgment, opt into the opt into the Western Riverside program, within, and you'd have a program up and running quite quickly. It would still not solve some of the issues about multiple providers. We would be accepting whatever sort of consumer protection is already in place by the Western Riverside COG, and we would then still have to deal with the DWP incentive overlap with HERO. I HERO is a great program. I hope they emerge as a provider from the county, perhaps with changing some of the conditions under which that program takes place, particularly to deal with the incentives. We don't really want our customers to go out and be borrowing money and leaving incentive money on the table. And that's really part of what we're doing. So, but if we want to jumpstart, and frankly, if we want to put some oomph behind the county to have one big county program, certainly opting into Western Riverside and starting the HERO program is a viable option. So I'll stop there, but I'm sure there are questions.
Did you want to make some open?
Good afternoon, Gretchen Hardison, DWP. I'm here for backup to respond to questions. Thank you.
I'll be curious, I mean, maybe not in this form, but the pros and cons of the different options, because general feeling is I'm just trying to light a fire here, but want to make sure that it's consumer friendly, that we have multiple options, the transparency, the accountability, all of that. I want to see maybe, I don't know, Pickle, if you have any thinking in particular from a ratepayer perspective about pursuing multiple options at one time.
Certainly more alternatives are the better. Since the details of the programs haven't been sorted out in terms of how they interface with DWP's programs, we don't have much to say overall, but these have a potential to make these projects more financeable for our customers. And in particular, what we would promote is making sure these apply for local net metered solar programs.
Which the HERO program does, and a significant volume of what they've done in Riverside is solar, often in conjunction with an energy upgrade. I think the one thing to remind folks of is that HERO or the PACE programs are really contractor driven. Contractors sell the financing, by and large. Your air conditioner breaks, contractor comes out. It's really important, and then says it's going to cost you this, and I have this financing program here. By and large, that's been its basis of success, is that the financing arrives with the work. So one of the reasons that it's important to have a program across the county is that we have contractors who are experienced in selling this and explaining terms and understanding sort of the ins and outs of it, because those contractors don't just work in the city of LA. They're doing projects in Santa Monica, they're doing projects in the San Gabriel Valley, all of those folks. So that's why we see the benefit of a county program. Now, having said that, more than half of the cities in the county have already opted into Western Riverside and are starting up the PACE. So that is less of a concern of ours than the DWP sync up and making sure that folks aren't leaving money on the table.
And the same contractor base, or trade allies as we call them, that are selling the financing, are leveraging the PACE financing that's being offered by the county to the customers they're marketing to. They are our trade allies for LADWP's incentive programs as well. So that's where it all comes together in packaging it for the customer, where a contractor can make the sales call, identify the opportunity, price the job, and then line up the funding for it. Identify, okay, it's going to qualify for this much from DWP's rebate program, and that leaves the balance this much for the financing, and pull that all together for the customer. We rely on trade allies to promote our energy efficiency programs and energy efficiency rebates and water rebates across the board.
And I'll get to you in a second. Just one last quick question. We're mixing energy and water a lot. Is there, between the PACE and California First and HERO, is there a substantial difference in how you might go on energy versus water?
To my understanding, all of them do water as well as energy and renewables, energy efficiency and renewables. There's, in terms of service offerings,
I think that's going to be more geographically depending on who the serving utilities are and what they offer. But those programs should be, and this is where the competition would come in. If a certain geography has extensive energy and water efficiency opportunities, and one program is only leveraging the energy piece and the other one's bundling the water, they should be more competitive. And that's where having the choice will help the market optimize in that regard.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of observations, and help me understand if these are not helpful. I mean, it's my sense that we would want to stay into a county program and not opt in with the Council of Governments, in that we have a utility that should be the clearinghouse for making sure that our rate base is actually taking advantage of all of the different incentives that we have. So unlike these Council of Governments sort of opt in, they don't have sort of the mass that DWP has in the conversation. So I'm just wondering if that's sort of completely off base, because to me it seems that we should sort of stay with the county, which would then suggest that we help shape the RFP to the extent that we could, to try to hopefully make it so that the utility does serve as a clearinghouse, whether it's the planning department or building and safety, to sort of, before they stamp sort of these sort of projects okay to proceed with, that they have to check in with the utility to make sure that we are offering the ratepayer everything that's in our arsenal to be efficient, thereby reducing the gap that you spoke to for the ratepayer. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to shape a sort of a component of their RFP to fit Los Angeles's needs, but I think the utility as a clearinghouse is probably incredibly important, so that our customers are protected and the rate base is being utilized as intended.
Yes, we absolutely, completely agree with all of that. One of the reasons you see the other LA County municipalities rushing to join HERO is because there is no utility, which is Southern California Edison, except for the other municipally owned utilities. There is no utility support as a clearinghouse for that. So for them, in the absence of LA County offering anything, and now they're getting ready to, but before they did, all there was the HERO option. So that was one of the things that funneled the other municipalities in LA County towards that. We absolutely agree we should be the clearinghouse on that. We feel that we could have, and we'll have to take this conversation to the next step and start talking with LA County on it in detail, but we do feel we could potentially have some input to shaping their RFP process, as well as where things ultimately end up in terms of the number of providers that they have. We would prefer, even if we do want to bring HERO into LA City, that we bring HERO into LA City through LA County. LA County has HERO as one of their providers, and we bring it in that way.
The other observation that I have, and would love to hear the mayor's office perspective on what's being said, is that, getting ahead of myself here, the net metering conversation I think is incredibly important, so that we have a robust DWP net metering program. But the city of Los Angeles, its residents in the aggregate, should have that that bucket one sort of credit for whatever it is that we put up on net metering. So I know it may prove to be potentially a disincentive for some of these contractors, because there's a marketplace for that bucket one renewable portfolio, renewable energy credit. But to me, it seems that we should get on board with the county and lodge our opinion with the legislature quickly that that credit belongs to the entire rate base, as opposed to a contractor or a firm or just the resident. I mean, we should celebrate that rec in total. And so to me, that makes for, I think, a really tremendous program potentially, because, aside from making these homes more efficient and understanding the importance of conservation, we should also get our due credit as a utility. That's sort of the benefit for the ratepayer in total. So, I know it's getting ahead here, Ms. Fry, but from my office, but to me, that seems that there's a real opportunity to work with the county and move the Los Angeles delegation towards that end, because that's sort of the missing piece, I think, for the ratepayer.
Let me address the first question.
Construction of the program.
Yeah. Because the bucket one, that's over a beer, I think, because that's a good long discussion to have, because we got to make that happen. On the construction of the program, I'll just say the risk of going down just the county path. In general, I agree with you. We would like one county program with multiple providers. The risk is that it is a government procurement process. They're starting up a new program. I wouldn't want to be sitting here in 6 months going, oh, the county lost its way, and having not had the leverage of a potential program. So right now, we think things are moving along with the county and to say, look, if we came back in a few months and said, look, that process is not moving forward, we do have an out to say, well, let's do HERO, and maybe that'll even push the county faster. But there is, in all government procurement processes, there is a risk that it never takes as short as we expect it to. And we just, if that's the direction that you all feel you want to go, let's just be cognizant that we could come back in a certain amount of time and update you all with how we think that process is going. I've been invited to be part of that process and could continually update you as you see fit. But it would be a shame to be here in the first quarter of 2015 at square 1.5.
Yeah, a question that both my colleagues have sort of touched on. There's so many different programs in energy efficiency and water conservation and offered by DWP and MWD and PACE and the state and SCAG. Is there any place where an average resident or an average business owner that wanted to understand that, is there one sort of clearinghouse for information? And if not, what would you recommend that be? The DWP or the mayor's great social media team or any of the possible places? Anyone given any thought to this?
There is a statewide clearinghouse of information on comprehensive home retrofits that marshals together all of the utility and other incentives and the financing elements and the PACE availability, et cetera. The Energy Upgrade California web portal set up by the state, funded by the IOUs, but open to all the utilities to participate in, serves as a web-based clearinghouse. And it also...
That sounds like it's just a piece of the issue, and it's not local. When I'm thinking of as a local entity that would have a link to that and 20 other things and would have everything available and try to make it a little more user-friendly and understandable.
Right, and I should have prefaced this as a two-part answer. That's the statewide level, and you can put in an address with a zip code and get your specific, all your utilities that serve you, links to their websites, links to local contractors, et cetera. But it's very user-initiated, and it gives you a lot of information. It doesn't do exactly what you're talking about. Now, the natural local aggregator for that information, when you're talking about the utility incentives and MET, is LADWP. MET offers incentives and programs to its customers, to the customers of its member agencies, but through those member agencies. So the only time Metropolitan offers a water incentive directly to a customer is if the member agency that's served by that customer doesn't have a program. Otherwise, we're the face. We bring MET's resources together with our own behind the scenes to offer it to the customer, but it comes from us, and it might have MET's logo on it as well. We're the clearinghouse for that. We are trying to, we would definitely want to be the clearinghouse for the integration of the energy efficiency programs that are being funded by, the energy and water efficiency programs that are being funded by PACE, so we don't get this dual pathway. But to make that happen, we need to actuate on what we're talking about today, which is being able to leverage, being a partner to a PACE program, but being an integral partner in terms of having the energy efficiency program that goes along with it.
So I guess it sounds like DWP is the closest thing to what I'm talking about. So in whatever ways we can encourage DWP to pick up the rest of it for the consumer and the business owner, I would certainly encourage that. I think there still is a need for something for the confused individual that would like to do more and find all of these programs and understand them, and something that we can also, once we've made it more of a clearinghouse, can send people in that direction as well.
Yeah, we're very eager to have a piece of that role. And I say a piece of that role because these programs, by and large, are designed to be marketed by the trade allies. So the ultimate clearinghouse on a customer transactional basis is actually their contractor. The contractor is the one who works with the program to arrange the financing and works with the utility to bring in the incentives. But we certainly would want to have a key role in making sure our programs were contractor friendly and were plugged into the PACE financing that would be flowing to those projects as well.
Very good.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing the DWP's report back, including recommendations about how to implement PACE, HERO in the city, how best to market it to customers. Ultimately, I also want to make sure DWP brings us a resolution urging the county to finalize their RFP with a variety of providers, high levels of transparency and consumer protection, all the things that we just talked about. And I think both to get that resolution going and that report back going, and hopefully even that process will help motivate the county to move quickly, and then we can sort of take it on a step-by-step basis as we move forward, and whether or not they're moving or not moving. Did you have something to?
I would just suggest that that we continue the item in committee for 30 days with your instructions, and have you all come back and report back on the resolution and ultimately what happens there. But we also should take public comment. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sure. Okay. We could have, as they going leaving, have Dustin Rylich, Adam Lone, and John Urden come to the table, and then we have two more folks after that, Michael Kahn and Bob Angel. But for the first three people I called, if you could come to the table.
Hello, Dustin Rylich. I'm the Director of Municipal Development for the California HERO program. Thank you very much, Chairman and Council members, for hearing me today. Our program has been very robust. We actually went forward with the program, and it started out in Western Riverside Council of Governments originally back in 2011. And then in 2012, that was really a beta of the program, and we did about 1,000 projects in that region. What we did then is we expanded the program in February of 2013 to create a statewide JPA to enable all cities within in California to opt into that program. Since that date, we've actually had 179 cities now that have opted into the program, large cities like San Diego, San Jose, Fresno, Bakersfield, so large entities throughout the state that are actually joining the program because they know that there's no risk, there's no admin to you as a city to actually be able to move forward with the program. Many counties moving forward as well, Kern County, San Diego County, Fresno County, and so forth. To answer some of your questions, we've met with the mayor's office and with Ted specifically. We would love to work with LADWP to work with some of their incentive programs and rebate programs, and we're a software-based company. So we have the ability, I represent Renovate America, which is the residential funding partner of the program. We have the ability to put those things into our software package, and we will do that so that we can actually work with LADWP to make sure that those incentives and those rebates are being offered to your constituents. It's simply programming, so we can do that for all of your zip codes here locally, and we'd be willing to and we want to, and we've expressed that opinion. Quality control wise, we have a lot of quality control aspects to our program. All contractors have to be registered with the program. We presently have 3,800 that are registered with the program, and from a quality control standpoint, we make sure they're licensed, bonded, insured, and then we also put into place many other things from the consumer protection side. And I know my time is up, I apologize, but there's so much to speak on this issue. So
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon.
You want to go ahead?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Lane. I'm here on behalf of the Los Angeles Business Council, and I'd like to express our support to participate in the HERO program, fully including residential and commercial. LABC, as many of you know, is an organization with over 400 members pushing environmental and economic and sustainability through the collaboration of various sectors in Los Angeles. With LADWP's recent approval to push their target to 15% by 2020, the HERO program will be instrumental in attaining this goal. Currently in LA County, there are 42 participating cities in the HERO program, with 2 additional cities to join within next year. The economic makeup of these cities varies greatly, showing a great opportunity to participate in a program that addresses a diverse population of Angelinos. Public financing of energy-efficient home renovations with low-interest, long-term repayments from homeowners will allow for increased energy savings while incentivizing the construction of carbon emissions-reducing projects such as solar, HVAC, and home performance. A study from UCLA and LADWP identifies that LADWP's EE efforts are expected to create on average 16 job years per 1 million invested. HERO will only add to these numbers, resulting in 5,200 new jobs in LA and savings of over $1 billion for homeowners. Energy efficiency programs continue to benefit the city of LA by spurring job creation, improving air quality, reducing global warming pollution. HERO will continue to create a stable and efficient financing program that will further push LA's energy efficiency goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lane, now Mr. Kahn.
My name is John Urden. I've started several tech companies, and I'm here on behalf of a new one I'm starting. I live in Westwood in Mr. Koritz's district. We're working on software to be sort of an arms merchant to some of these companies, to residential clean energy contractors, and to do just the sorts of things you're talking about, to ensure quality control, just kind of third-party quality control, work with incentive programs and things like that. We've got people who have lengthy experience, including with some of the entities that just testified. So we're for and against sort of this motion, as we think PACE is terrific for all the reasons just listed, but we'd like to have an open program with many administrators, or at least several administrators. And I guess our concern about this is it specifically called out HERO, which we think is terrific, but shouldn't be the only alternative.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, if I get Michael Kahn and Rob Angel come to the table.
Hi, I'm Michael Kahn. My company is Kahn Solar. We're a solar power contractor in the San Fernando Valley, but we work all over the city. And what I think is really great about PACE is that it's a financing program that makes it easier to get solar, for customers to get solar, and it works really well with the solar incentive program. The fact that it allows the customer to finance it for 20 years. Some customers are afraid that they're not going to be in the house for 20 years or 25 years of the life of the system. And so they're nervous about going into debt for a system and then maybe moving after 10 or 12 years when the kids are grown up or in college or whatever. The PACE program allows them to finance the system, and 20 years is shorter than the warranty period or the lifespan of a solar power system, and that way they can live in the house, they can get the benefits of a solar electric system, and then when they move, the solar system adds value to the house. It's still got a partial loan balance, perhaps, in the PACE on their tax bill, but they've gotten the benefits and they're able to sell the remaining benefits of the solar power system to the next owner. So it gives us some flexibility in being able to get solar out there for the masses, and also other systems like gray water systems and other kinds of energy and water saving systems. So it's a good thing. It's good for economic development. My employees all live in LA. It's going to make more work for them. We'll be able to add employees because we'll be able to sell more jobs, and PACE is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Mr. Angel.
Good afternoon. Thanks for hearing me. My name is Rob Angel. I work with Varengo Solar. I'm the Alternative Financing Product Manager. Varengo Solar is one of HERO's largest partners. We've done over 400 installations with them, and it's over about 7 million jobs with HERO funding. The largest concerns after hearing this discussion here, I wrote down 2 points that I think are the most important to consider when looking at the different options of implementation here. 2 specifically, I wrote down contractor friendly. That was brought up in the latter arguments, and marketing to customers. When you look at the arguments for and against implementing just one program or many programs, is the fact that niche programs aren't always the easiest to implement. In other words, if contractors have many different options to choose from, a lot of times it becomes very difficult to choose one. On the rep level, on the in-home level, it becomes very difficult to talk to homeowners, and they get confused, and it's a lot simpler to have an easy solution. That's often the best solution. And so, being a larger company, scalability is a big part of what we talk about here. We're a statewide company and a nationwide company, and because we're able to leverage HERO's economies of scale and things of that nature, it's easier to implement on a larger level. And I think that's one of the things you're going to find when you talk to contractors, that don't just work in the city. They work in the county and they work beyond. They don't want to work with smaller niche programs. And so we're fully in support of the HERO program. We use it now. We're very happy with it. To his point, they're a tech company, and we've been very happy with their customer support and their back-end processing. And, I just can't say enough how great they've been on that end. So I just wanted to say we love PACE, and I think HERO is going to be a great option in this area as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, we can move forward then with the recommendation of holding it for 30 days and having a report back, urging the county to finalize the RFP with a variety of providers, as brought up, high levels of transparency, consumer protection, how to implement the PACE and the HERO program, and with all the different providers. And that suits the chair. I'd like to move that forward.
That'll be the order. And thank you, Mr. Blumenfield. AB 474, soup to nuts. You get to work on this issue from our time in the legislature to here. Very good. That concludes our agenda. We do have some public comment cards. If I could have Sherry Lear, Walker Foley, Sabrina Virgo, and Daryl Gale come up, and then Jessica Aldridge will close us off.
It's kind of fun. It comes from a circle like that.
Begin. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
My name is Sabina Virgo. I'm here today because I'm very concerned about the climate. And the climate is being assaulted on many fronts. The earth and the air are both under assault. And today, in front of us, we have an opportunity to deal with those many challenges in a unique way. I'm here to support the increase in the minimum wage for hotel workers working in hotels with over 125 people. Those hotels are located and clustered in Burbank, downtown, and Century City. In all of those areas, the rents are prohibitive to low-wage hotel workers. We're in a fortunate position of actually being able to solve this problem because hotels are enormously profitable. They have the funds to be able to raise the minimum wage to slightly over $15 an hour. Doing that will reduce carbon emissions. It will reduce one of the insults to the air in our planet. I live in Los Angeles. You live in here. Our air is of great concern. And I think that this committee and the City Council as a whole can once again be leaders in fighting for our environment. If the E&E Committee is a strong supporter of the minimum wage raise, and if you fight for that on the City Council, it is common sense and also documented that workers who need to live a 45-minute or an hour commute away from their places of employment burn CO2 on the highways, the freeways of the city. They pollute the air, not to mention the damage that that does to their own family, just as human beings that they don't spend to build strong families. A raise of the minimum wage would allow workers to move closer to their places of employment. It is an affordable thing by the hotel industry. You have the opportunity to support two good things which coalesce to help our environment and help the workers in the city of Los Angeles, and I thank you for your work.
Hi, my name's Betty. I'm an organizer with Food and Water Watch. I'm here on behalf of Walker Foley, who had to step out. So we're a consumer advocacy watchdog, and
I'm
working.
sorry, your name is?
Betty.
Did you fill out a card?
No, I'm here for Walker. He filled out the card.
Okay, if you could fill out your, we'll amend that card for the record here. And you're here for Walker Foley?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Can I just continue?
Yeah, continue, and then we'll have you fill out this card.
Okay, all right. We're a consumer advocacy watchdog working to ensure equitable access and sustainable policy for our essential resources. I'm here today to support the Raise Los Angeles Alliance for a New Economy. The Raise LA campaign, which will guarantee a $15 minimum wage for non-union hotel workers in hotels with 125 rooms or more. This motion will never see this committee, but as the environmentally conscious council members of LA, I urge your support for Raise LA when it comes to this council. The reasoning is simple: more money, less carbon. LA County data shows that people making less than $25,000 a year are more likely to live further away from LA's major job centers. According to Texas A&M's mobility study, the average commuter spends 61 hours stuck in car traffic, costing over $820 in idling gas, and release roughly 3,600 pounds of CO2 a year. Top of that, people making under $25,000 a year make up 34% of LA's commuter traffic. If we want to reduce emissions while at the same time boosting our economy, then it is clear that we need to put more money in the hands of the working class people. More money, less carbon.
Hello, I'm Daryl Gale, and I'm here to support raising the minimum wage. First of all, we are all connected. I have never been able to understand why businesses are against raising the minimum wage. You know, living here in America in the 21st century, we are bombarded and barraged by nonstop, messages to shop and buy and consume, even if we only listen to NPR. So why would low-income people be any different? If we raise their income, they will go out and they will go to restaurants and they will buy more clothes and they will buy lots of plastic crap for their children, just like the rest of us that come in through the ports of LA. This will contribute to the city's overall tax base and bring about more pride in the workplace, less stress in commuting, and less job turnover. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Lear. I'm a resident of San Pedro, and I came up here today to also speak out in support of Raise LA, the program to raise minimum wage for hotel workers to $15, I believe, and 37 cents an hour. I do support the idea that people should be able to earn a living wage, because if you are able to earn a living wage, you're more likely to be able to live near where you work, live, work, and play in the same area. Will help cut down on people needing to commute and save on greenhouse gases. This is important from an environmental standpoint because we have goals under AB 32 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. If we support people making living wages so they can live closer to where they work, then we'll also support the AB 32 goals of reducing the number of miles driven in our vehicles, and support the overall economy of Los Angeles. This isn't going to hurt the hotel industry at all. They're doing phenomenally well. They are an industry that overwhelmingly employs women, employs immigrants, and employs people of color. So this is a social justice, economic justice, environmental justice issue across the board. It's something that Los Angeles has, those particular areas are something that Los Angeles is known to be a leader in. And I would like to see that continue. And I would ask that when this comes in front of the city council as a whole, that from an environmental standpoint, that these committee members support the motion as well. Thank you.
Great. Your name was?
Sherry Lear.
Very good. Jessica Aldridge.
Day, my name is Jessica Aldridge. I am representing today SoCal Climate Action Coalition 350.org group. We are made up of over 105 diverse organizations from all over Southern California united behind the issue of global climate change. Every member that was sitting up here a second ago is also a part of SoCal Climate Action Coalition. We're not just an environmental organization, but we also represent labor, education, business, civic, health, social justice, and more. On March 1st, 2014, we kicked off the launch for the Great March for Climate Action, which started in the Port of Los Angeles and will end in Washington, D.C. in November. During this year's only torrential rainstorm in Los Angeles, 1,000 people marched in the streets from Wilmington all the way to USC, demanding clean energy solutions and to an end to extreme energy proposals like tar sands and hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Enclosed in these packets here, you will find a letter which asks you to take specific and meaningful action to combat climate change and to demonstrate the political will for a healthy planet. And we prioritize 6 urgent climate change focused requests that you will find in here. This letter is also signed by over 105 regional partners and over 500 online signatures from the community. We would also like to thank and recognize Council Members Huizar and Koretz, and also the Chief Sustainability Officer, Matt Peterson, for being in attendance at the event on March 1st, for presenting to the crowd, and for supporting our efforts. This is a follow-up to those efforts, and I would like to present that package to you now. There's one for each person on the EE committee. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're adjourned.